Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's chant verse number 20th, and then verse number verse number 30, 31 and 32. So first verse number 20. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tatodvayam. And number 30. Dehabhimane galite vikyate paramatmani yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhayaha bhidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. Number 32. Avachinna chidabhasa stritiya swapna kalpitaha vigyeyas trividho jivaha tatradya paramartikaha. One more time. Avachinna chidabhasa Tritiya swapna kalpitaha vigyeya trividho jivaha tatradya paramartikaha. So we are looking at completing verse number 31 today, and with completing the verse 31, really the Drg Drsya Viveka text is pretty much complete. And as we mentioned last week, the rest of the verses from 32 onwards to 46 is considered to be somewhat disjointed from the verse number 1 through 31, and can be considered to be a kind of like a revision, which is how I would treat it, and probably not spend a lot of time on each of the verses, do a quick revision of that. So last week, one of the students, Anne Cherie, had written to me an email saying that she would like us to do more meditations, and in a way she kind of reminded me that when I had planned out this text, we were going to say that because the last few verses are very meditation specific, that we will actually not just talk about meditation but to actually do it. But somehow we have not gone through with that fulfillment of that plan, and I feel badly about it because I was the one that told you that. So I think based on the reminder from Anne Cherie, what I would like to do, and I've already replied to her on this, is to mix the verses 32 to 46 with considerable amount of meditations. And so the revision will be in the form of a meditation, not just the verses. So I'll try to do that, and in fact plan out what meditations we will do ahead of time so that we have some structure behind it. So we will actually do a meditation today itself after I finish a little bit of the verse number 31, and then I will complete, we will do a meditation, and hopefully in the next few classes we will do a little bit more meditation that we've done in the past. Okay, so that's the plan. So completing verse number 31 before we do a meditation today, we have pretty much covered all aspects of the verse 31 with one exception. So we talked about tasmin drishte paravare, means that once, so this is an important thing to see, tasmin drishte paravare. So what it meant was that through the teaching, through the suggestions of the teaching, through following the path which is shown by the teaching, what we should try to do is to be able to see both my higher self and my lower self together. So this is an important thing, that you can see them separately. You can see that my lower self, of course, as Vedanta tells us, is that each one of us really has two selves, as though. Really it's only one self, but as though there are two selves. So one self is the human being experience. Myself as a transactional person, and this will also come in verse number 32 today. If we have time after the meditation, we will actually revise it in terms of the transactional person. What is called Vyavaharika Sat. So transactional person means that the everyday person that we are familiar with, that we are doers, we are thinkers, we reap the benefit of our doing, we feel good, we feel bad, all those kinds of things. So this is what is considered to be a lower self. So the lower self means the one which is defined by my experiences. Defined by my experiences and an incomplete set of experiences. Because really speaking, even the self is also nothing but an experience. But I don't understand the higher self, which is myself without the experiences of life. This I don't understand yet. But in through the teaching, if I'm able to see both of them close together, so that's an important thing, because what happens is that sometimes I can have some experience of nirvikalpa samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi is where you have the experience of the higher self. Right? So you can have an experience of nirvikalpa samadhi, but then you do not tie it to the lower self. It is completely separate. It's as though you are either a lower self or a higher self. See, that's an interesting thing. There's a good way to look at it. You look upon yourself either as a lower self or as a higher self. but not both. You don't connect them together. The lower self is really a kind of a dream character, if you may. And the higher self is a waking character. So it's very obvious that if you are not a dream character, then you are a waking character. If you're not a waking character, you are a dream character. So you cannot look upon them together. And you cannot in a dream. But in this teaching, if you are able to see, my gosh, I am both. So it's kind of like, you look upon yourself as a unfettered akasha, as a space, as well as you look upon yourself as an enclosed space. So if you have a consciousness in the room space, you can see that I'm a room space. I am enclosed by these walls. But I'm also the total space. Is there any doubt in my mind? No. This is what is meant by tasmin drishte paravare. Means that if the relative relationship between the Paravidya, Para-Atma and the Apara-Atma, if the relative difference between them is clearly seen, now you can say that, really speaking, what happens is, I think we went over in the earlier class also, so there is a certain sequence by which I understand this. So, so for example, take the example of the space. So at one time, if you have the consciousness if the space has consciousness, if the space were to have consciousness, then at one time your identity will be, I am an enclosed room space. And you won't even think about anything outside of that. You are so busy just making sure that the walls don't fall down, that the smell in the room is nice, that there is windows open so that the air comes in and out. You're totally involved in the experience of the room space. That's all you're talking about. Then somebody comes along and says, hey, wait a second, did you realize this? Did you realize that there is a space outside of what you consider to be yourself? This is the outer space. So you say, well, I never thought about that. Okay, I'm willing to look at it. Tell me, describe it to me. And you say the outer space is much bigger. It is anything that you are not. So then you think about it and say, yes, I can understand that. You can even take a peek outside to see there is a very large space outside, which is different from you. So then there is a recognition of the simultaneity of the room space as well as the outside space. And then the next stage is where the same teaching that introduces you to the outside space versus the inner space tells you, by the way, you should see there is no inner space, it's only space. As we saw in the example in the last couple of weeks, there is no original sun and a reflected sun. There's only sun. So there's only space. It's not an outer space versus inner space. So at first you have a hard time accepting that. But suppose you do, and you will, because that is the truth. All you have done now is you have unraveled your identity with this room. It's all a question of identity. Tadatmyam, as in Sanskrit says, tadatmyam. Tasya bhavam iti tadatmyam. So all you've done is, there was just a single chaitanyam, a single of awareness. It's all it is an awareness. So at one time it's an awareness of the room. So it becomes, I am a room awareful person. Then you become just an awareful person. So that's the stage. You first is only room awareness. Then the second stage is you have a room awareness as well as outside awareness. And then you can say there is only outside awareness. There's only awareness actually. The outside also goes, inner side also goes, there's only awareness. Actually, we will do a meditation just on this point today. So that's the implication of tasmin drishte paravare. This is a good thing to sort of remember. Tasmin drishte paravare means that you look at both of them. See, so if a person who has been well taught by someone else which says that you are just taking yourself to be a room space because of your identity, now your identity should not be with the whether it is enclosed or not enclosed, because that doesn't really matter really. The enclosure is going to come and go, because it's one simple earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area and this whole thing will just go. But you as a space will be unaffected. So you leave the identity. It's all a question of identity. You just be who you are. Then you are free. Tasmin drishte, both para as well as avara. Avara means the inferior self, inferior me, and para means the superior me. If you're able to look at both of them close together, wonderful things will happen. And so we saw 3 things will happen. We saw already 2 of them. Bhidyate hridaya granthi means that, so the granthi is that you feel this is me, the appliance. And so this knot of the heart is broken because you are able to unravel the 2 things. I'm electricity and I am the appliance, and I always thought the 2 of them were joined together, like 2 strings joining together. But now I can unravel them in my own mind, not physical unraveling. If I can unravel them through Viveka, I can see now. And what's the reason for it? Because now I can see the tasmin drishte paravare, that the electricity is independent of the appliance. Then chidyante sarva samshayaha, that all my doubts are removed. I'm very clear about it. I can replicate it again and again. Okay, so this is the second one. Now let us go into the third one, the last one, and then this work is complete. And in fact, the whole text is complete with this last piece of the puzzle, which is Shiyante cha asya karmani. Shiyante asya karmani means that this person's, which person? Tasmin drishte paravare, that person. For that person, the karmas are gone. So what is this thing about karma? What do you mean by karma? How they are related to me? Why are they important? Why are we even talking about karma? Shouldn't you be talking about me? And we have been talking about me, my doubts and so on. This karma, where does it come from? So there it is said, what happens is that this is something that one needs to understand, that my status as a jiva, as a human being, as a living being, as a living person, a living appliance, my status as a living appliance is governed by certain laws of nature. And the laws of nature here called karma. Karma means actions performed. So my status as a living person is governed by my actions in the past. It's very obvious, isn't it? Because, so the actions means that I had a certain choice of doing something. So we have a free will in being able to do anything. Free will. That free will never leaves us. This is an important thing to see. That the free will never, that is part and parcel of the self, is the freedom to choose our actions. It is never lost. In one of the sections, Swami Maheshananji really spends a lot of time on this, which says that really speaking, if you just examine yourself, your choice is never lost. Now, your choices are, maybe you may have cornered yourself in a situation. So for instance, supposing you committed a crime and you are jailed for it. You can say that I don't have any free will anymore. I've been put into a jail cell and I cannot move from there. So where is my free will? You've taken away all my free will. No, that's not true. Because you have a free will of either accepting it or not accepting your punishment. If you accept it and you disregard some of the discomfort, you can be happy. And if you behave yourself, you can be freed a lot sooner. You remember this example that is quite a, this is a interesting example. There was, as you know, the cows are very sacred in India, in the Vedic tradition. And so there's always a problem where the cows are slaughtered for meat by generally non-Hindus, but sometimes even Hindus might do it, who do not believe in this. And so the cows are always a problem. So over the course of history, even in the recent history of the independence since 1947, there have been many protests by people who have tried to say that the laws must be changed so that the cows are protected and they are not slaughtered. So the story goes that at one time they were a group of sadhus, of these people who have chosen a life of just abandonment from their families, and they just live together as beggars, basically, looking for food from others. They're called sadhus. They are not swamis because they have not studied the matter very well, but they are simple people called sadhus. And so if you go to Rishikesh or some of these places, you'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of sadhus wearing the ochre clothes, moving around, and just depending from meal to meal, and just being on their own, laughing, being happy, whatever it is. So these sadhus said that we have to really make a protest. So they went to New Delhi, and just like these farmers these are doing these days, not violently as they're doing now, but these sadhus also tried to block the road and so on, and said, free the cows, cannot slaughter them. So the police said, you are making a problem, you are blocking the road, you shouldn't be doing it, and if you keep doing it, we're going to throw you into a jail. So the sadhus never listened to it, and they said, throw us into the jail, we don't care, but we have to do what we want to do. So the police people were forced to put them into a bus, take them to a jail, and they jailed them. And the punishment was given that after 1 month the sadhus should be let go, but for 1 month you cannot, they were all prisoned. And so after 1 month the jail master came and said, okay, today is your day for freedom. So the sadhu said, already? No, can't we stay here for a longer time? So the jail master said, what the heck? This is the first time anybody has ever said that. He says, why do you want to stay? He said, sir, the fact of the matter is this was the most pleasant experience, because before that we would have a hard time finding a single meal during the day. We'll have to go around from place to place, and we'll be insulted by other people because we will say, alms for the poor, and they'll say, go away, go away. And so we'd have to go to the next place. Here, in the morning, the warden comes in, opens the door, gives us breakfast. Then we are allowed to just move around in the courtyard, talk to each other, play some volleyball, whatever. Then at lunchtime, the bell rings and said, lunch is ready. He says, we have never had it so good. So can't we please not stay anymore? So he says, no, you have to all get out. So Swami Meshananji says that the freedom is always there. Whatever you want to do, your freedom will always be there. So the karmas are the actions that put you in a given situation. And so we can relate to that. Where we are in our life is as a result of our previous choices, our previous actions, isn't it? And where we will be tomorrow or the day after also depends upon our choices. You can come to a class, you don't have to come to a class, you can watch a movie, you can join the protest in Washington, do anything you want to. Totally up to you. So now the question is, to what extent am I under the influence of my actions? So there, Vedanta, the Acharyas say that there are 3 kinds of actions. One is that in your past lives you have done a lot of good karmas and a lot of bad karmas, and a lot of neutral karmas. So you have a storehouse of a lot of actions that you have performed, some of which have not yet been, they have not fructified yet. Fructified means they have not turned into a result. Pardon me. I've been experiencing a lot of hoarseness in the voice, so I'm thinking of seeing a doctor about that. It's not going away. It's not that serious. It's just a nuisance. Anyway, so there's a lot of mixed karmas in the previous life, and out of that, a few selected karmas are taken up to influence when you will be born, where you will be born, what your health will be, what your tendencies will be, what is your mental situation. All of this are fructified. This is called the fruits of the karmas. And this is important to see, that what happens is that these karmas are jointly decided between you and I as individuals and Ishvara as the karma phaladata. He is the giver of the results. So it's exactly, everything is all computerized, and you feed in, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm able to do, what is my next life. So this is also called the sankalpa of Ishvara. So believe it or not, every life, every new life of us has been personally stamped by Ishvara. Personally. Not as though he's very busy, that you and I are not important. No. Because we are the creation of Ishvara. Everyone is a creation of Ishvara. So what the creation is, so the Ishvara says, okay, now for this life, here's what you're going to be. You're going to be born in India. You're going to be a female. And here's the family that you're going to be born in. And here's your health script. Here's your lifespan. So what happens is that out of the stored karmas, and the stored karmas are really infinite. There's no limit to it, because we have had infinite number of lives. So this is what is called sanchita karma. So the sanchita karmas are stored somewhere, out of which a specific set of karmas are okayed by the boss. It's okay. For this, here is the life for this person. This is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha means prak arabdham yasya. Means one that have already started to fructify are called prarabdha karma. This is my life's template. This is what's going to happen to me. This is called prarabdha karma. And then there is a third type of karma which is called agami karma. Agami karma means that in addition to the prarabdha karma, I can also have a choice of doing something else out of my own free will, which is not part of the prarabdha karma. It's all from free will. Of course, they're related to each other, but these sanchita karmas are the ones that I will do in the future, and those will be put back into the the agami karmas are the ones that I will do in the future, and the results of those and the karmas themselves are put into the sanchita karma. That's every life I put it in the sanchita karma. And out of that, every life there is a small set of karmas that dictate my current life. It's called prarabdha karma. So this is an interesting discussion. So he says, Kshiyante cha asya karmani. So I think I mentioned it to you that this same verse appears in Panchadashi, chapter 11th, and I think it's on number 7. So there Swami Maheshananji goes over this in great detail. So in the discussion of this, Asya Karmani Kshiyante, he raises an objections by people. Because the teaching in Vedanta is you don't need to really raise your objection. You just listen to all the intelligent objections that others have raised. So one of these objections raised is, wait a second. I can see that the non-fructified sanchita karmas are destroyed because of the knowledge. I can see that the agami karmas which are based on my free will not happen. But how can you say that my prarabdha karmas are destroyed? You cannot say that my prarabdha karmas are destroyed because I don't see the prarabdha karmas being destroyed. So a person who has reached Jivan Mukti still gets hungry in the day, still has to go to the bathroom for elimination, still has to eat food, and presumably he still reacts to what people tell him and he has to respond to them. He cannot just sit there and pretend he's not there. So this is all prarabdha karma. How can they be destroyed? So Swami Maheshananda answers this very clearly. He says, actually speaking, the one should, if you are really a purist about it, you cannot say that the prarabdha karmas are karmas. What? Here you've been talking about sanchita karma, prarabdha karma and so on. Now you're saying that the prarabdha karma are not even a karma? He says no. The reason is the prarabdha karmas have already transformed into phalam, into fructification. They have already started to fructify. And so therefore, they are not karmas. There is no karmas to destroy. They are not karmas to destroy, they are phalam. Phalam is a completely different thing altogether. Why are they a phalam? Because the moment Ishvara sanctified it as this life's prarabdha karma, up to that point it was called prarabdha karma. But the moment you took a birth as a baby in your mother's womb, it is phalam, 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 phalam. It has already gone. And phalam cannot be destroyed by knowledge. If phalam cannot be destroyed by knowledge, then why are we studying all this and so on? Because I want to really get away from all the problems in life. And if you're telling me that you cannot destroy the problems of life, then why am I studying all this? It says that the phalam will get separated from you as your understanding becomes clearer and clearer. It's right now you are making the mistake of taking the phalam to be yourself. If there is a problem in the body, it becomes your problem. Mental problem becomes your mental problem. So that is a separate issue altogether. The phalam really is not yours. But what brought the phalam was the previous karma, those are destroyed. So this is an important distinction. In fact, we keep on saying prarabdha karma, prarabdha karma. There is no such thing as a prarabdha karma. It will go on. This is a very important discussion and requires a lot of explanation, lot of study, lot of acceptance, lot of analysis, and it may not be possible in this introductory text as Drg Drsya Viveka, but we will tackle this as we go along. And so anyway, all at this point is that tasmin drishte, three things happen. One is that your hridaya granthi, the knots of the heart, are untied, your doubts are removed, and your karmas are all destroyed. They might just continue on for a while. The simple example is that if there is a train which is hurtling on, it's a good example really. So if there is a train carrying, a dozen railroad cars called bogies in India, full of people, and the engine is chugging along, and then suddenly the voice comes, stop the train because the rails are broken, they have been washed away by floods, stop it as soon as possible. So the engine driver shuts off the engine and slams on the brakes. But the sheer momentum of the train carries it forward for a while. The engine has been turned off, but the momentum is going to take a little while for it to go. And hopefully the train will stop before the derailing section. Hopefully. Because no more action is being done. You're not chugging it along anymore. You've shut it off. But it's very possible that the forward motion of the train based on the previous karma, previous actions, may not be able to stop it before there may actually be a crash. Or if you're lucky, you're doing your best. Crash meaning that you may have to go to a next life. Or you'll be able to stop it in this life itself. We don't know. In any case, the karmas are all gone. So this is the example of kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. So with that, the text is, so this is the result of doing all the Viveka, Drg Drsya Viveka. So as when we revise it, you will see how the whole sections from the very beginning were the very simple things, that the eyes are the Drig, what is seen as the Drishya. From that point on, all the way up to the last verse, completes this whole thing, right? And so we will continue on this, but now let's do some meditation. I'm again a little late. It's already 10:45, so I may not be able to do a complete meditation, but let us, since I promised it, we will do some, and then perhaps even just the redoing of the preparation of the meditation. Maybe that's where we will stop today. But from next time on, I will I will try my best to leave enough time for meditation. Okay, so with that, let us end the class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Mritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let us revise the preparation for meditation, and perhaps we will do the meditation itself next time. Shut these lights in my eyes. Om Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Triambakaya Tripurantakaya Trikalagni Kalaya Kalagnirudraya Neelakanthaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sadashivaya Sriman Mahadevaya Namaha. So each meditation is made more effective if we precede it with a sankalpa. And the simple sankalpa that should be done in the Nididhyasanam, this Vedantic meditation, is to tell your mind, tell yourself really, that I want to spend the next 15-20 minutes not in my relative personality called Swabhava, but in the absolute personality called Swarupa. In a way you can tell yourself the time to play a role will be outside this meditation. During this meditation, I am not interested in reviewing the roles that I play, but in understanding the actor that I am. The actor who is playing the role is under observation, not the roles. This is the sankalpa. And the reason why this sankalpa is helpful is because it clearly distinguishes between my actions as belonging to the roles rather than the actor. After the sankalpa, in order to facilitate the looking at the person rather than the personality, the swarupa rather than swabhava, is try to be as composed and still as possible. So sit in a comfortable position, but not leaning for support. Leaning for support usually results as you become more relaxed into sleep. Similarly, you do not become tense. So this middle ground where you are not slouching, not sleeping, but neither are you worried or acting, is the best. Then, after the sitting posture is resorted to, one begins to gather the mind to yourself. There is no force involved. There is a gentle absorption. So to do that, we utilize the one sense organ, that of touch, that belongs to the entire body. So you become aware of the sense of touch. Start with your feet touching the ground. Your thighs touching the chair. Your hands touching each other. Perhaps touching the lap. And come to your eyelashes. Feel the eyelashes touching each other. Open the eyes slightly. Let a sliver of light come in. And then allow the two sets of eyelashes to come together and touch each other very subtly. You can do this a couple of times. You will notice that your mind is much quieter. It's absorbed following you. Next, let us examine our body from head to toe, and help it relax. We turn our minds to examining the various pieces of the body. And to pause and examine the state of tension in the various parts of the body. Usually, just looking at the body piece by piece, you find it relaxes. You start with the very top. Let your eyes relax. Let your temples relax. Go down to the neck and the top, the shoulders. Come to the stomach. Let them relax with each outgoing breath. Relax the lower part of the body. Examine the entire body as a unit. And feel the enhanced relaxation of the whole body. The last step we will do today is to be aware of your breathing. It's a beautiful gift given to each one of us to be alive. The mechanism for us to take in the life-given oxygen to circulate it at the various parts of the body and to exhale so this cycle of inhalation and exhalation goes on without any help from you. If you want to help, then be conscious of the rhythm of the breath, the length of the breath. Let it be relaxed. With equal time between breathing in and breathing out. So with this, you can complete the preparation and go into the actual meditation. And this we will do next week. But a simple preparation done regularly helps you to do the meditation more effectively. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So that's the program we will follow from next week on. I'm not sure that we will do meditation every time, but we will do it much more frequently. And I look forward to having a range of meditative practices in terms of what we will do prepared ahead of time, and so we will have a structure for revising the entire text in the form of meditation, of course with the new verses as well. So this is what we will do. Om. Thank you. Suzanne Narayan says, I had learnt that the jiva dies when prarabdha karma is used up. So I'm a little confused if prarabdha karma really aren't karmas. So no, it can be said, Suzanne, that as I was saying earlier, that the prarabdha karma defines all aspects of the life, including the span of life. So it defines when you are how long you are likely to live. Now, there again, the free will does influence the prarabdha to a certain extent. So we say that carefully because the prarabdha karma, normally what the Vedanta with Acharya says, that the ideal lifespan for a person is 100 years. That's what is given in the Vedas, that the target for a human being is 100 years. But you know very well that through our free will, we can lower it or increase it. And of course the prarabdha itself can say that even though the ideal is 100 years, our current health and background may not allow us to live the full 100 years. So that's already part of the prarabdha. But let's say, for sake of argument, that the prarabdha, this is when the prarabdha was still a karma. It was not a phalam yet. It is not a fruit. It is still being at the discussion stage between Ishvara and you. And then at that stage, it said, I think this person will live up to 75. Okay, it's most likely to live up to 75. Now, you can actually change it little bit. You cannot make it to go from 75 to 150, but you can make it to go from 75 to 85 by some very healthy living. Or vice versa, you can decrease it. So there is a effect between them. Anyway, to answer your question, the prarabdha karma defines the lifespan of a person, right? And so it is, in that case, it is really semantics in that sense. Semantics in the sense that it is not called a karma It is called a phalam. And the phalam means fruits, means the fructification of the karma. The phalam can be modified by additional karma. So karma means your free will in action. So there is a mixture of phalam and karma in that sense. But when both of them are together, allowing the body to now fulfill its lifespan, then the jiva, pardon me, then the jiva takes on a new form. So the jiva really doesn't die. It just gets separated from this body and gets the antakarana to be associated with a new body in the next life. That's how it happens. Sam Dillon says, in a future class, could you review the different karmas? I don't really have it understood that well. I'll be happy to do that. Okay. I will revise it. One possibility is that, pardon me again, Sam, you could just go through that small section that we actually went through today, which is the sanchita karma, and then the prarabdha karma, and then the agami karma. But I'll be happy to revise it for you. Yeah, I think Maithili, I agree that I think meditations are very helpful at this stage, and the only thing that we like to do in Vedanta is not just to do meditation per se, but to do meditation based on the teaching. That's when it really becomes really fruitful. That's the hallmark of Nididhyasanam, as you know. And so what happens is that when you're doing a course like the Drg Drsya Viveka or any other course, by the time you are finishing with the text, the course is over. And so there isn't enough time to incorporate meditation along with the teaching. Now, when we were at the ashram with Swami Dayanandji, we would have meditation every morning. And the teaching went on for 2.5 years. So we had meditations for 2.5 years. And so it was absorbed as part of the teaching itself. That is more difficult to do in a short course. But I think that in the Drg Drsya Viveka plan that I have, we will try to accomplish quite a bit of that. So that may lengthen the number of classes that we are going to hold, but I don't want to go too far into it. But verses number 32 to 46 will be incorporated. So I think what I will try to do is perhaps do half and half of teaching as meditation, so that you have more of a value for internalizing the teachings so far, something like that. All right. Appreciative of many of you that attend both the classes. So nice of you to do that. That must be a lot, but excellent. So with that, I take your leave, and we will hopefully see you next week. Om.